Welcome, folks, to downtown Atlanta and Mercedes-Benz Stadium, site of this year's Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and, of course, part of the college football playoff. We are through the opening round of this year's playoff, and now the pressure is mounting in the quarterfinals. A matchup between one side that's had time to rest and recover, and another team that's battle-tested, already off one playoff victory. As we'll see the number 7 seed in this playoff, the South Carolina Gamecocks, taking on the number 2 seed in the playoff, the Miami Hurricanes. 3A Sports College Football. I'm Chris Fowler here in the booth with Kirk Herbstreit. And here we go, a college football playoff quarterfinal game. We'll see which team's going to be moving on. Team is out there. Great energy as this playoff game is about to get underway. This one will be fair caught. This line getting set up. It's a first down play. They'll come out throwing here to start the drive. Gets hauled in here over the middle.
Quarterback looks downfield to make this throw. He wants to be able to get the ball to be able to pick up enough yards for a first down. But instead, he gets the ball at least underneath to the drag route and gets some positive yards.
Pass complete. It's second down now. And the ball is handed off out of the shotgun. They'll stop him behind the line for a loss of 1.
Boy, you'd love to see a few more yards here to give yourself a better chance on third down. Now, here early in this game, we get a big third down to see if this offensive line can keep the pressure off the quarterback.
Offense facing a third and long from the 28. Got to have your pass protection in order in this play. They'll change the pre-snap look now. Drops back, looking to throw for it on third down. Snags the quick throw. And the gain just good enough for a first down.
Oh, the defense. They get this offense to a third down early in the game, a chance to get him off the field. But instead, this quarterback shows you why they've had such a great year with a conversion.
The Hurricanes with first and 10 here. The shotgun handoff here.
Chris, you know, the spread era over the years has always grown offensively, but I've been always impressed with defenses that really build their defense to play in space, still have an ability to be sound at the line of scrimmage and defend a running game. It's exactly what we saw right there.
Second down after that run on the previous play. And the back now goes in motion. Quarterback wants to throw it on second down. Looking right, this one caught.
Well, it's a game of matchups. Always has been and it always will be, especially on the perimeter. And the quarterback believes his guy is better than their guy.
Crucial third down play after that completion. This offense picks up the first down. They tackle him at the 44.
Boy, the defense misses out on an opportunity to get off of the field. They got the offense to third down, and they just weren't able to prevent them from converting.
The Hurricanes look to keep this drive moving. Receiver in motion now. Running game is working. They'll stick with it on first down.
Hey, it's a great job of this defense containing the running game. If I'm calling the plays, I'm not abandoning the running game just yet. I think it's important to have some sense of balance. So throwing and running is essential. Stick with it.
Second down after that run on the previous play. off at RPO. The quarterback looks to his right and heads out of bounds after a decent gain.
Anytime a quarterback and a receiver are in sync, you got a chance to make a very successful play. Great job here by the offense.
Third down and short on the 8th play of this opening drive. They'll try to run for the first down. They stop him at the 23. This offense is getting close to the red zone.
Boy, with all this build-up and hype of this playoff game, this defense has got to do a better job at the line of scrimmage. That's another first down. They had their chance there on third down, but they do not want this to become an ongoing trend against this offense. They're just too good.
It's a quick grab. And the runner scoots out of bounds after gaining some decent yardage.
Just a good job here by the quarterback. Got the ball out to his receiver. His guy eats up some yards. They stay ahead of the sticks.
The Canes looking to cash in the red zone. They call the counter run here. Taken down, but not before he makes the first down.
Sometimes I almost get mesmerized watching these runners who have great vision. You know, the eyes that carry their feet to the open space, making people miss. I just love watching those guys do work.
Off the play fake on first down. Launching one to the end zone. And he's got it. Touchdown, Canes. We come out in the playoff game, Kirk. No signs of rust for the offense immediately.
Yeah, no jitters at all. After the layoff, I wondered how they might be able to come out and communicate and actually just the rhythm to the offense. But they did not hesitate. They set the tone early. Now they got themselves a lead.
So it'll be a touchback. Ball spotted at the 25. First down play call coming up. How aggressive will it be? Using the ground game here. Tailback has the handoff. They'll stop him behind the line for a loss of 1.
Chris, I think we all kind of get caught up in third down. What is an offense doing on third down? But I think what's also important is how well you defend first down. If you can hold your opponents to a short gain or a tackle for a loss, you throw the offense out of whack, and their game plan gets much more challenging to try to come up with that first down.
Here's a throw underneath to the tight end. But a huge hit by the linebacker. What a tackle.
And here the tight end shows off his hands for a nice game. Love to see the big man get his touches.
Critical third down play for this offense right here. Can he get there on the ground? Football comes out. Looks like the defense has it.
Hey, Chris, we can hear the contact from that hit all the way up here in the booth. So, hey, it's easy to blame the ball carrier, but I don't know if anybody could have been able to hold on to the ball after that hit.
And the Hurricanes offense retakes the field. Can they keep it going? They mixed the run and pass beautifully in the last touchdown drive. And the ball is picked off. And he's got some open field ahead. At the 30 now. Past the 10. Touchdown, Gamecocks. Wow, what a play, a defensive score. That is a game-changing play by this defense.
Well, game-changing. The momentum now is on their side. They've got confidence that they can finish this game off and get a win. If they do, we're going to remember this play right here.
And the point after is right down the middle. Kickoff team is on the field to boot this one away. And the return man decides to signal fair catch. And the Miami offense is back on the field. They're trying to recover from that last possession. They had things going, but then a pick six, a devastating play. They got to recover from that right now. It's a nice wrap up there by the junior.
Well, the defense coordinator this week all week telling us about gap integrity, not giving this running back any creases at all. Really sound defense on that play.
Second down after that run on the previous play. Back now goes in motion. Defense will have to adjust. Across the 40 now. And that gain enough for a fresh set of downs. Spotted at the 48. First down play call. How aggressive will it be? Off the play fake, looking to throw. They bring him down just short of the marker, inches away from a first down.
Nice play action call here by this offensive coordinator. You know, you can freeze those linebackers just for a split second. Usually that's going to give you enough room to be able to get that tight end behind them. And if the quarterback can make a nice tight throw like this, pick up some big yards.
Tackled behind the line. It's a loss of 2.
Things just appear to be a bit out of sync from the get-go. Now, give credit to the front seven of that defense for staying in the proper lanes and getting to the ball carrier, not let him dance around and make something out of nothing.
It's third down for the offense. Can he make it to the marker? Breaking free at the 35. Moves the football to the 30. Good enough for a first down.
Chris, what I love here is just the vision by the running back. Showing great patience, the hole opens up, and then he's able to use his speed to pick up some good yards.
The Canes are moving quickly down the field. Here comes a first down pass attempt. And it's intercepted. Beautiful timing there. Look out, he's got some space. Past the 20. Gonna take it all the way in. Pick six. Touchdown, South Carolina. And the interception taken to the house. A pick six. Potential game-changing play there.
Man, nothing gets a defense, and especially a defensive coordinator, more fired up than a pick six. And let's not forget, give credit to some of those other defenders for making some key blocks to spring that touchdown loose.
And they tack on the extra point. He'll call for the fair catch here. And here comes the Miami offense back out onto the field. They moved the ball in the last possession, but a devastating end of the drive, a pick six. And they recover from that right now. And he's brought down after a short gain, does not make the first down yardage.
It's exactly what you want to see as a play caller. You get positive yards to be able to kind of keep you on schedule as a play caller. That's all you can ask for. Good job up front and a nice run.
And now the handoff. It's a solid gain to pick up the first down on what will be likely the final play of this first quarter. A running play gives the offense a fresh set of downs. On 1st and 10, they'll look to throw it. And the pass is complete to the tight end. Tackled, but first down. They bring him down, but the junior quarterback showing off the cannon.
Chris, that's a great example of his arm strength. He just fired the ball in there much quicker than the defense could even react.
And the Canes lining up here on 1st and 10. Back goes in motion now. Let's see how the defense adjusts. First down, looking to throw the football. And he finds the running back in the flat. Defense surrounds him. Just a short gain on that completion.
Well, the running back that time just kind of sneaks out of the backfield and shows his hands on that nice catch.
Second down after that short completion. Pre-snap motion from the offense. Quick pass. Here comes a jet sweep. They make the tackle, but that's an excellent gain. Moves the ball to the 33. That run, good for a first down. The offense still rolling. Look at it, chuck it again. Trying to create outside the pocket now. And they hit him just as he releases the ball. It's incomplete.
Well, sometimes an answer for an offensive coordinator against a good pass rush is to move the launching point, move the quarterback from one spot to another to affect the rhythm of the pass rush. That's not having any kind of impact at all on this defense. They're getting after this quarterback no matter where he is. They do a good job of it right here.
Second down after the incompletion. Ball handed off. Tackled after a 3-yard gain, so it sets up a 3rd and 7. Not going to be easy here. Backed up a long way to go for a first down. Quarterback checks the defensive look, makes some adjustments. And he'll drop back here on 3rd down. Tries the right with a quick throw. Wow, a 3rd pick tonight by the QB. Big takeaway, now looking for a big return. The 10 brings the interception all the way back. Touchdown, Gamecocks. Well, the takeaway and the touchdown, that is just a dream play for any defender, Kurt.
Well, let's start with the interception. I just love the fact that he got his eyes turned around, found the football, and then has the athletic ability to be able to secure it. Then he goes back to high school running back days and shows you what he can do with the ball in his hands and takes it all the way back for a touchdown. Beautiful thing.
And the return starts just inside the end zone. Tackle made at the 29, so he picks up about 4 yards by bringing it out of the end zone. And the Hurricanes offense retakes the field. Let's see if they can bounce back from that costly mistake last time, a pick 6. The gain moves the ball to a 34.
It's a good, solid gain, 5 or 6 yards. Love to see that from the running game.
A gain makes it 2nd and medium. Back in motion now. Quarterback looking to throw it on 2nd down. He's going to take off. He'll avoid the tackle there with a slide.
Well, they did a good job of getting pressure on the quarterback, but, man, make the play. Bring him down down. Instead, they give up positive yards here on the scramble.
First down here for this offense. From the gun, he looks for an open man. On the run here, lets it go. Receiver makes the grab. He's brought down quickly. A short gain gets them a few yards closer to the marker.
Boy, this receiver in the slot is giving this defense all kinds of problems. He has another catch on the day. You may want to adjust out, get out of your base, maybe try 5 or 6 defensive backs on the field, somebody that can match up more athletically against this slot receiver.
Catch made on the left side. And he'll be taken down, but he does have first down yardage.
Chris, that's another positive gain for this offense, and this quarterback continues to show why he's had such a great year this year. When he has time to throw, he gets his feet set. He's as accurate as any quarterback in the country.
The Hurricanes are moving quickly down the field. On 1st and 10, looking to throw. Looks like he's going to run it. Slides down to avoid the tackle.
Chris, watch him work through his progressions here. Finds the first and the second option aren't there. By the third option, he's got to pull it down and try to pick up some positive yards, in which he did, and then he slides down to avoid the big hit.
Looking to pass here on 2nd down. Throws to the tight end. He's got it for a big gain. And a big game before he goes out of bounds. The offense keeps churning, gets a fresh set of downs.
Boy, another positive gain for this offense, and this quarterback continues to show how dangerous he is when he has time to throw. The defensive coordinator's got to change up his looks, maybe bring in the blitz, anything they can do to get this quarterback out of this rhythm.
They get the senior to the ground, but it's a nice run there.
Nothing better than an offense on 1st down to be able to pick up big positive yards like that. You can either keep giving it to the back, or it can set up play action and get the defense to come up to the line of scrimmage, and you can throw it over top of them.
The Hurricanes looking to finish the drive here. It's 1st and goal. They'll try to run it in on 1st and goal. They finally corral him at the 1.
Chris, I just love to see this offensive line in this running game able to establish themselves. This back is already over 50 yards. We're in the first half, so really good job of establishing the run game. Opens up the play action, opens up one-on-one opportunities. Just keep winning the battle up front.
Solid gain puts him in good position for 2nd down and goal. The quarterback will just sneak it now.
No, I don't blame him. Go with the quarterback sneak here to try to pick up just enough yards for the 1st down. But hey, man, give credit to that defense. They did not budge at all. They kept him short of the 1st down.
So nothing on the previous play sets up a 3rd and goal from the 1. And the defense smothers him for no gain.
Tell you what, for a tired defense that's been out on that field for a long time on this drive, what a stop there on 3rd and goal. It brings us to 4th and goal. And as a head coach on the offensive side, when you put together this kind of drive, you're this close, inside the 3-yard line, you got to come away here with a touchdown.
On the ground, trying to power toward the goal line. He did not get it. A crucial play by this defense. What a 4th down stop.
How about the offense being aggressive? They decided to go for it here, and I got to give all the credit to this defense. Being aware, anticipating the call, knowing exactly where they needed to make the stop, and they did it.
And the South Carolina offense is back out on the field. Offense protecting the lead here, but they've been playing so well. Let's see if they go for more before halftime. So the delay of game brings the offense even closer to its own end zone. So it's 1st and 10 inside the 5. How does the coaching staff play this? So they run the ball to get some breathing room, or will they trust the QB and be more aggressive here? And they'll keep it on the ground. Running back has a handoff. That'll be a safety.
Man, that is a big-time play with this defense. Not only do they get a couple points, they get the football back as well. It should give these guys a spark and some momentum.
And that sets up a return.
Return is tackled for 41, and your Miami Hurricanes will take over 1st and 10.
And the Miami offense is back on the field. Time is running out before halftime to cut into this now 2-possession lead. Quarterback adjusting now to the defense. 1st down, looking to throw the ball. Oh, a nice play by the defender. Got a hand in there to break up the pass.
In college football today, the quarterbacks get rid of the ball often so fast that this is a great example for young players on the defensive line. If you can't get to the quarterback, watch their eyes and try to get your hands up so when the ball comes, you can knock it away.
And he's back to throw again on 2nd and 10. Gets the ball up as he's hit, but it's incomplete.
And you got to love this if you're defensive coordinator. It's all about affecting the quarterback and getting pressure on him. This time they got to him and forced that incompletion.
Now the offense facing a 3rd and long from their own 41. Dropping back, looking to throw for the 1st down. Catch made along the sideline, but he's short of the sticks.
Quarterback had a lot of time to evaluate this defense, and most of his reads downfield appeared to be taken away, so he checks it down to his running back. How about the way this defense just runs to the football to keep him short of that 1st down? Great job by the D.
Trying for a 4th down completion. He's got it, and that is enough for a 1st down. That's a big hit at the end, but they earn a fresh set of downs.
Man, I'm surprised the defense didn't crowd the line of scrimmage. On 4th down, you've got to eliminate those short, easy throws for the quarterback. Take those easy throws away, and maybe you get off the field.
Looking to throw yet again. And he's going to fling it deep, going for it all here. Oh, and it's incomplete. He flat out dropped what would have been a touchdown. 2nd down coming up now.
Chris, not only really good coverage here by the defense, but I love their awareness. That ball is in the air, headed to the end zone, and the ball is separated from the receiver with the contact.
They look to throw it here on 2nd down. Hit as he releases it, and the pass ball is incomplete.
Well, Chris, I can tell you as a quarterback, there's nothing more frustrating than a big defensive lineman who's good at swatting the ball. Because if they don't do it, oftentimes you got an open receiver and a completion.
Drops back, needing a 3rd down completion here. Looks downfield and connects with a wide open wide receiver. 4th out of bounds after a big gain. This offense set up with a 1st down.
Now we're starting to see this offense look like they've looked all year long. Listen, to be able to get to a playoff opportunity, your offense has got to be able to show an ability to hit throws like this on 3rd down. They hit it, they keep the drive alive. Now they have a chance to put points on the board.
And looking to throw now on 1st down. Stuck right there at the line, no gain.
Well, defense does a nice job of pressuring the quarterback. I'll tell you what, that's a heck of an effort by this guy just to be able to get back close to the line of scrimmage.
Coming to the line on 2nd down, this is important. They want to avoid a 3rd and long. Send the back in motion. They flip it to him on the jet sweep. And he goes nowhere. Stop cold behind the line of scrimmage.
That's one of those plays that works better against certain defensive looks, but not every defense is the same. They were all over that one. Let's see if they continue to attack to the outside on the perimeter to set something up downfield.
Now in third and very long, looking to throw. On the run here. Lets it go. And he'll take it into the end zone. Touchdown, Hurricanes.
Love to watch this quarterback go out and execute in this kind of situation. He's doing a great job of ignoring the scoreboard and feeling a sense of pressure to have to play with more urgency. Right now, he's executing. We're only in the second quarter. Plenty of time to get back in this game.
Empty set as they try for the two-point conversion.
Here we go.
Offense looking to throw the ball. Quick throw, misses his mark there, incomplete.
Defense not fooled at all there. Nice job of stepping up and stopping that two-point conversion.
So an important touchdown just before halftime. Not much time for the opposing offense to try to answer before the break. And he'll take off from deep in the end zone. Tackled at the 14. Not very good field position to start here. The offense comes back out there. Not much time left. Perhaps just time for a couple plays before the half. Trying to flex the ground game here. Running back takes the handoff. And that's good for a first down near the 40. So a timeout is called. Just a few seconds left here in the first half. This will likely be the last play of the half. Looking to throw it on first down. And he'll loft it to the end zone. Intercepted in the end zone. Tackle after the pick, and that'll do it for the first half of play. That will do it for the first half here. Kevin Connors now has our halftime update. The Canes will kick this away to start the second half. And the returner decides to signal fair catch. And the Gamecocks offense is back out there on the field. First play of the second half is a handoff. They bring him down, but the drive has now reached the 35.
Well, here's the first play to start this second half, and it's really more the same of what we saw in the first half. Really no need to make drastic changes. What you were doing in that first half gave you the lead. Just keep working on it.
Fresh set of downs for the offense. First down. He'll ride the back again here. Second down after that run on the previous play. Moving the receiver around pre-snap. Second down, we're going to throw it. The pocket breaking down. And the senior making a disruptive impact play.
Nothing is more gratifying for a defense to be able to sit back and play zone and still get pressure on the quarterback with your defensive front.
The offense now facing a third and long from the 26. Got to avoid a mistake here. From the shotgun, he's probing the secondary. And he's looking to make a big play downfield. Oh, it's picked off. What a play. Going the other way, can they catch him? That's a pick and a long return before finally being taken down.
It's 3rd and long, so as an offensive coordinator, you can either play it conservative or trust your quarterback and take a shot downfield. They elect the latter, and it ends up backfiring.
On 1st and 10 here, looking to throw the ball. And it's incomplete. Even on a 1st down throw, he was under some heavy pressure.
He gets away with one here. He threw that ball into double coverage, so don't get me wrong. There was a lot of pressure. He does a nice job of hanging in there. But, man, he got to be careful where you're throwing this football.
So 2nd down after the incompletion. We'll go with the ground game here. Running back takes the handoff. Offense been in reverse here. Now a long way to go to convert this 3rd down. Dropping back. We're going to throw for the 1st down. Here's a wide open receiver, complete. Forced out of bounds, but not before the football's moved inside the 10. Will be 1st down and goal.
That is great arm strength and accuracy by this quarterback. Let's not forget the wide receiver's job of bringing it in for that big gain.
The Canes looking to punch it in here. It's 1st and goal. And he runs it into the end zone. Touchdown for the U.
Well, I just love to see an offense finish off a drive. You get inside that 5-yard line, you've got to be able to pound the ball to the goal line and into the end zone. Great job to finish it off.
Extra point puts it in front by 1. Here's the kickoff team now, set to move this one away. And he'll just take a knee. Drive will start at the 25-yard line. The South Carolina offense is back out on the field. The last possession ended in an interception. Let's see if they continue to trust this quarterback in the passing game. They test the middle of the defense, but get nothing.
That back just had nowhere to go. Got to give credit to the defense and their run fits on that play.
Offense getting set. 2nd down play here. Quarterback sets up, looking for an open man. It's a short completion to the big tight end. To get him down quickly, not much of a gain on that completion. So ball at the 30. This is a manageable 3rd down play for the offense. Quarterback looking to connect with the receiver here. And the junior able to get home with the sack.
A really good job by this defense. The quarterback looked to be trying to work through his progressions to find his open receiver, but before he knew it, he's on his back.
Check this out. The offense still on the field, going for it inside their own 30. And the quarterback tucks it and takes off as a design run. Enough for a 1st down at the 37.
And That is a gutsy call to go for it on fourth down in your own territory. But you can see that this coach is confident in his offense and going to their go-to plays that they call up specifically for these situations.
The Gamecocks begin a new series here, 1st and 10. There's the snap. Quarterback setting up to throw. Receiver makes the catch. He's found some room with the 45. It's a big gain across midfield all the way to the 39-yard line.
You know, we talked this week with the offensive coordinator about what makes this receiver so special. He kept referring to his route running. Here's an example of that. Great route, enough separation to give the quarterback a nice lane to throw the football.
Here comes a 1st down pass attempt. Looks to the left, pass caught. Goes out after a nice gain, a sign of life here by the offense.
Boy, nice drag route here, and I thought the patience by the quarterback was the key. Puts it in front of his receiver, gives him a chance to make the catch, and picks up a little bonus. Nice yards after the catch.
And the Gamecocks are in the red zone. Quarterback pulls the ball. It's a keeper. Goes backwards, losing 3 yards there.
And it's a nice job by this defense. They saw option. They actually forced the quarterback to pull the ball on the read, and then they corral him for a loss. You could tell they worked hard on that in practice.
Important 2nd down play coming up. Here's the snap. Offense looking to throw the ball. And they get the completion.
Well, this wide receiver has it all. We know about his leaping ability and his speed. What I've seen today is the precise route running. Another example of it there, and the timing with this quarterback and this receiver is just a thing of beauty.
This is crucial. Defense needing a stop on 3rd down, trying to force a field goal. Try and muscle for the 1st down. Tackle is made at the 4. It'll be 1st down and goal. The Gamecocks hustle to the line to crank up the tempo. Here's the snap, looking to throw. And it's the senior getting home with the sack.
Just a great job here by this linebacker to be able to come up with that sack there on the blitz. Big play for this defense. And, man, Chris, you think about the linebacker play at the University of Miami over the years, it starts with Ray Lewis, and it could end with it, to be honest, but the list just keeps going. Michael Barrow, Jonathan Vilma, and Dan Morgan. You go on and on and on, and this guy right now is trying to live up to that standard.
And the defense brings him down.
Well, they get stopped here on 2nd down. It's going to bring up a 3rd and goal situation. And from this far back out, wouldn't be surprised to see them go through the air. Just don't want the quarterback to take a sack here. Make sure he gets the ball out of his hands quickly.
Offense moving backwards here, a long way from the goal line now. 3rd and goal, looking to throw the ball. And they hit him just as he releases the ball. It's incomplete.
Hey, it's an incompletion, but it's a nice job by the quarterback. I know it didn't pan out, but the most important thing is he didn't turn the football over and he didn't take a sack. It'll give your kicker a chance to put some points on the board if they opt for the field goal here on 4th down. And that one, my gosh, I mean, it's almost too easy. Nice kick.
Following the field goal, the kickoff team is out there now. And the returner elects to fair catch it. No return. And here comes the Miami offense back out onto the field. Great possession last time. They punch it into the end zone. Can the defense come up with a stop this time? Offense will keep it on the ground here. They'll try to run inside, but nowhere to go. Second down after that previous play. And now the defense decides to spend a timeout to regroup a bit. Offense getting set up. Here's second down. Quarterback drops back, probing the secondary. Got him for a sack. A big play made by one of the senior leaders of this defense.
Chris, that is textbook by this defense in man-to-man coverage. Nowhere to go for this quarterback. He's looking around everywhere to find an open man. By the time he figures it out, it's a sack for the defense.
So a tricky situation here. Third and very long inside your own 20. How much of a risk do you take? You know this defense could be very aggressive at this moment. Quarterback pre-snap adjustments now for this defense. Looking to throw it on third and very long. Catch made on the right side. That's a big gain. Defense able to stop him. It's fourth down now.
Well, that's a good job with this offense to at least get some positive yards. They've kind of put themselves in a tough spot getting behind the sticks. But now, after that big gain, let's see what happens.
They will go for it again here on fourth down. They are 1 for 2 so far today. From the shotgun, drops back looking for an open man. So here we go. First play of the quarter. The offense has a first down. And they'll run it out of the shotgun. They tackle him behind the line, a loss of 4.
Really tough to run a good counter play when the linebackers aren't fooled at all. This time they get down in a hurry into the line of scrimmage to make that play.
Getting set. Here's second down. Play action fake, looking to throw. Junior steps up and makes an impact play.
Well, you got to do a better job with your fake as a quarterback. The defense did not bite at all in the play action, allowing them to continue to come after the quarterback and come up with that sack.
After consecutive losses, he needed a miracle here on third and a mile. Quarterback making adjustments now to what the defense is showing. Drops back, looking to throw for it on third down. Fires it to the wideout. Another interception. Wow, that's his 4th tonight. And he steps out of bounds. A solid return and a great play to set up his offense here.
Well, at this point, the offense coordinator has to think about going to the other quarterback. That's his 4th interception in this game alone. He's throwing the ball into coverage, and the defense is making him pay for it.
And the Gamecocks offense is back out there on the field. Last time out, they moved the ball well, but had to settle for a chip shot field goal. He'll hand it off. Brought down after picking up 5 yards, so 2nd and 5.
Man, just complimentary football, really, in a nutshell. They get this football back thanks to their own defense, creating that turnover, working with the lead like this. Really, it's all but over. Now the offense is just thinking about running the football and working that clock.
And now the running back's got it again. And they'll stop him short of the line to gain. The Gamecocks looking to take advantage of this red zone trip. Pre-snap motion from the receiver. On third down, it's a handoff. Fighting for yardage, but the defense stops him just short of that first down marker. The offense already has one fourth down conversion. They do it for a second time. And it looks like the quarterback's going to run it. And he's brought down, but he does have enough for the first down.
Well, these are the kind of situations you practice every week. You got to be able to get a yard. And the offensive line was able to give them just enough push to convert here on the ground. Clearly, they've done this drill before countless times, and it shows.
Just a small gain, looking at 2nd and 9. Quarterback drops back from the shotgun, looking for a receiver. Locates the tight end. It's complete. Brought down at the 7, but the completion moves him into scoring position. Here we go, third down. Defense needs a stop here, trying to force a field goal attempt. Offense stops the clock with their second timeout to talk strategy.
Timeout at South Carolina.
An important third down conversion coming here in the red zone. And they'll work the clock here by keeping it on the ground. Doesn't quite get in, but it sets up a first and goal for this offense.
Good call here by the offense to be able to pick up this first down. And, Chris, it makes you wonder, with under 3 minutes to go in this game and trailing, the defense sitting back in their base, I thought they might be in a little bit more of an aggressive mindset, turning the blitz loose, trying to create some plays to get the football back.
On the ground, trying to muscle it across the line. Muscles across the goal line. Touchdown, South Carolina. Well, no surprise from offense this good. Short field, quick touchdown.
Yeah, you get into the red zone, though, there's a tendency to want to get conservative. I love that the offensive coordinator and the quarterback kept attacking until they came away with 7 points.
Automatic in the PAT. Now they get set to kick it away. And here's the fair catch by the return man. And the hurry Canes offense retakes the field. This drive is important. Last one ended in an interception. Let's see if they can get it going here. First play of the drive, we're going to throw the football. Finds his target.
Hey, you're down by a couple possessions late in the game. That's exactly how you want to start this drive. Let's see what they can do with it after that nice game.
Second down play coming up for this offense. Quarterback changing the play now at the line. Looking to pass here on second down. Short throw to the back, an easy completion. They bring him down, but not before he gains first down yardage.
That's a much better job by this quarterback of working through his progressions. We've seen him earlier try to force some throws, trying to make a big play. This time, works through his progressions, checks it down into the flat, and picks up some positive yards.
First down and 10 now. Here's the snap. Quarterback drops back. Catch made over the middle. They make the tackle, but that pass creates a solid gain. And that's the 2-minute warning here. This offense desperate to cut into this lead and then try to get the football back. Now it's second down here. And the quarterback dropping back. Short pass finds the tight end. Not much after the catch, but it is good enough for a first down.
Chris, we get so caught up in these wide receivers and their playmaking ability of getting them the ball in space. Like the defense has to pay attention to them. Often too much attention opens up an underneath drag route like this, and quarterback makes a good read. Nice first down.
And the Canes have first and 10 here. Defense takes their third and final timeout of the half to talk strategy.
South Carolina.
The guys up front lined up. It's first down. Looks like the QB is changing the play at the line. On first and 10, they'll look to throw it. It's the running back in the flat. Defense drops him for a loss. Tougher second down on play.
This is not how you draw it up as an offensive coordinator. You got a first down play, and you go backwards. Now you're behind the sticks, and that play just never seemed to have much of a chance at all.
Offense getting set. It's second down. And the quarterback looking to make a play through the air. And that pass is hauled in over the middle. He's stopped, but he gets a first down.
Chris, this guy has a big-time arm. He just zipped the ball in there. Yeah, you can sometimes show your arm strength in other ways than just bombing it deep.
Sixth play of the drive coming up. Back to throw again. Quarterback looks to his right and finds his man. Runner scoots out of bounds after gaining decent yards.
Man, isn't it fun to watch running backs who can add that dimension to the passing game? They're so dangerous because once they catch the football, they're operating in much more open space than they would be if they're just getting a handoff. And it really tests the linebacker's ability to cover out in space.
Quarterback looking to pass here on second down. He's moving out of the pocket. He makes the grab. And they wrap him up, but the gain is good enough for a first down.
Chris, a great ability by this quarterback to get outside of the pocket and place the football right where it needs to be for the first down.
The Hurricanes looking to cash in this red zone trip. Here comes a throw from the red zone. He's running out of time here. He's hit right as he throws it. Incomplete. Here's the second down play. And now they'll run it on the draw. They'll stop him behind the line for a loss of 1. Now they've got to hustle to the line and get set. Quarterback appears to be changing the play. On third down, he drops to throw. Can't hold on. Good defensive play. Brings up a fourth down.
Boy, Chris, this drive looked outstanding until they got into the red zone. Seems like the wheels have come off. Third down and long makes it very tough to execute in the red zone. Now let's see what they come up with here on this fourth down play.
The kick is good. Offense collects 3 points on the drive.
Snap, the hold, the kick, everything there perfect to put 3 points up here for the offense.
It looks like they're lining up to attempt an onside kick. And the receiving team has recovered. Looks like the hands team did its job. And the South Carolina offense is back out on the field. Under a minute to play here. The obvious tactic, just take a knee and see this game out. The back's got it. And they tackle him, but a nice pickup on that running play. And now it's the defense that calls timeout here, trying to get organized and preserve as much clock as possible. What's the play call here on second down for this offense? Takes the handoff again. The Gamecocks pick up enough yardage for a first down. And the defense takes a timeout to stop the clock with 28 seconds remaining.
Well, it's a nice job up front by the offensive line, but give the running back an assist for setting those blocks up before he's able to get downfield for the first down.
So this one is tucked away. Time for victory formation. Looks like the quarterback will just take a knee here. Well, a really entertaining game. It came right down to the end. They made the clutch plays, and that made the difference.
Well, we knew these teams were fairly evenly matched, and you really saw them go back and forth, trade blow for blow. Excellent team win by these guys, doing what they had to do in the final quarter to come out on top.
And that is going to wrap it up. We enjoyed this one here. For Kirk Herbstreit, I'm Chris Fowler, and this has been another presentation of EA Sports College Football.